I did another author event at the bookstore, so let's talk about it. So this store is part of Indigo Books group. Indigo Books is basically Canadian Barnes & Nobles or Waterstones. First thing that I want to talk about is that I can't stop being surprised by how supportive the staff is at these stores. First of all, when I came in, they already had everything set up for me. They even had this little board for me. It basically has the cover on my comic on it, it has my name, and it tells you the time that I will be in. This is super awesome, and everybody was super friendly, everybody was there to help. Like, I just can't stop being surprised by how nice everybody to me every time I come in for the author event. So how it works is I bring my own books, they're already in Indigo Books system, and then I basically just hang in there, talk to people, and tell them more about my comic or about my coloring book. Then if people decide to buy my book, they just take one from the table and bring it to the cashier and get checked out through Indigo system. Then how it's supposed to work is that Indigo is supposed to take 45% from the whole price of the book, and they're supposed to transfer me the rest. And I know for some people, just having the table and just being there and talking to people, just cold talking to people, just starting talking to strangers can be intimidating. But I'm going to share a couple of my methods of what I do that helps. First of all, I always have some sort of a freebie. For example, today I had some stickers of the goose for my coloring book, and I had bookmark for my comic over here. In general, we'll smile to everybody, say hello. Then judging by the situation, if it's appropriate, I just ask people, would you like a free sticker? Most of the time, people say yes, and if they do, they come in and I talk a little bit about my coloring book, a little bit about my comic, making a point not to talk like a salesman. I just tell them about my project and why I make these stickers, why I make this coloring book, why I make this comic, and how long I've been working on it. Never expect people to buy anything, and I think that makes them feel more comfortable. If people say they don't want a sticker, they typically still approach and ask what's going on, who am I, what I'm doing. I'm in general very chatty. I crack jokes. Like the way I am on TikTok, this is exactly how I am in real life. Obviously, with interaction with strangers, you never know how they're gonna behave. Some of them are more upbeat, some of them more like thoughtful, some of them want to give you advice. That lady cried when she saw a coloring book. It was actually super touching. She saw it, she loved it, and she teared up because she said that she's very grateful that I made something like this. For somebody who doesn't know, this is the coloring book that goes through all provinces and territories of Canada, and the goal is to highlight how beautiful Canadian nature is. And when I start talking about the coloring book, I get very excited and very passionate. I talk about every animal and every background that I drew. I know them all by heart. For this lady, it was very emotional because she said that she's very happy that there's a product like this now that celebrates like Canadian nature and how beautiful Canada is. I don't know, it was actually like, I like almost want to tear up when I talk about it because it was very sweet. She said, thank you very much. She got the coloring book and she said, thank you for doing this. She was like the sweetest elderly lady, and she talked about how she loves doing art, but at this point, like because of her age, her hands kind of shake. And I told her that because the coloring book, there are already lines drawn, she doesn't need to be precise. I have more stories. Tuned in for another video.